Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Check it out. It's the HEQ Swan K1 vertical takeoff and landing wing. This got me really excited because remember my full series of videos on the Parrot Disco kind of digital FPV wing? That thing was so awesome. We did so much with it. This is kind of the next step up since that one couldn't really launch vertically and land vertically. You kind of had to have a big area. People were crashing it. It was hard to land and stuff, but this takes care of that. So here we go. Really excited. This is also by FOXTECH makes this. It's by the two companies. I guess they're sister companies, but I got one in for demo and I'm super excited. We're going to unbox this, inspect it, set it up, do flight tests in the next couple of videos, and also range test. This video here is just going to be an in-depth unboxing, inspection, and setup, show you how everything is, how the interface is. So don't forget to hit that notification bell up there and subscribe. And also I'll have this Swan K1 down in the description down below if you wanted to check out how much it cost and some more of the specs. Go ahead and check that out in the description. Anyway, let's get started. Let's unbox this and see how this thing is. Here we go. So first time opening it up with you guys, and we got instructions on the top. Looks like there is some English in there, thankfully, so we can understand what a lot of the stuff does. We'll go through all this when we take it out of the box. I got the version that doesn't have the case, but they do have kind of a newer case version, and they said they'd send me a case, so hopefully that comes pretty soon. Kind of like two big pieces of foam. You can see there's the K1 in there, and the top just has like the legs, basically just the legs on the top. So here's the main fuselage of the K1. Pretty awesome. We're gonna check it out more in depth. You can see it does have a camera right here, but that's just kind of like the FPV unstabilized camera, I believe, or maybe it has a little bit of digital stabilization. But if you really want to get good video on this, you're gonna need to put in your own high definition camera. There's a pitot tube right on top for your airspeed. Let's just get everything out of the box before we start checking it out and putting it together. So two wings. Here's the other side here, so just left and right. Full set of propellers. So it looks like they just give you one set. One charger here, just the charger and the wall plug there. Don't want to miss anything, so I'm going in all the nooks and crannies. That looks like a USB type C little cable, white cable here. And last but not least, in this box is the controller. Awesome. See, there's that screen on the bottom, so you don't have to have any kind of phone or tablet. It's all built in. Pull out these guys. These are really light. Wow, it's basically just really light plastic, and you got the motors here. So basically just two sets of these. Looks like we're gonna have a right and a left because you can see that motor is tilted a little that way. Okay guys, here we go. So I got everything out of the box on the table, and the first thing I wanted to do was just kind of inspect everything. So as you can see, we've got the landing gear with the motors that are already attached up here. It's just got a really simple little connection port here, kind of like similar to some of the connectors you'd see where drone batteries kind of attached to drones. But you can see how this is kind of like swept as the shape of the wing. So really no way we can put these on wrong. You just have to line up that shape and slide them on, which we're going to do in a second. They do feel pretty durable. Like if you did hit kind of hard or they hit something, they wouldn't just break. They're really hard but slightly flexy plastic, kind of plastic you'd have on the outside of like a multi-rotor drone. And then there's just basically a square for where it meets up to the plane. Not really any way you can get this wrong, since that has a teardrop shape kind of sloping back, and so does that. All you do is match it up, put the square hole on the square rod, and then just push it down in. It goes in really nice and easy. You shouldn't be jamming it at all, and then it just slides in to lock in. So we're just doing that basically on both sides, and then really just following suit with the wings. There's really no way you can screw this up either. While we have the wing up here, we'll just take a quick little in-depth look at the wing. We do have like a carbon fiber tube right here, and then we have the cavity that's gonna sync up. Little notches right there for those plastic little stubs to go in, and just a little clip on the very end there. You can see, focus in here, that there's just a little clip to like hold the wing on, so hopefully that doesn't come off. And then we have that kind of disco style wing tips over here. Putting that carbon fiber piece into the corresponding hole, and then just sliding it in so like everything matches up. Maybe a slight bit of difficulty to, there we go, the initial, you just gotta kind of tweak it. Let's see how easy it is to take this thing off. So if you hit a tree maybe when you're going, you see how that'll separate. So that's a little bit worrisome. And let's just see if we pull it off kind of hard. That's how easy it is to kind of take the whole thing apart. So it all just kind of falls apart super easy. So what I might do is just for a little bit of added security, you could always just put a couple strips of tape on those seams, you know, just to hold it there. Quick little checkout on the motor. You see how that motor has a little detent on the top, and this motor over here has no detent on the top. So basically that's going to determine which propellers go where. So let's try a motor with the detent. There we go. So that's going to be the black ones. You can see how they just reverse spin on counterclockwise. Definitely need to make sure these are a little bit tight. So I'm just kind of finger tightening them until they're nice and tight. You can see how that works. Look at these propellers. They do have quite an aggressive pitch here. Look at that thing. Right off the bat, they just come up crazy angle and then come down into a regular propeller. So that's gonna give it that bite it needs for like initial acceleration. Let's move over to the motors that don't have a detent. What's interesting about these two is they have this little like rubber silicone like washer on the bottom. If you guys can see that. So that kind of locks them in. That's kind of actually a good technique. So these are gonna go on clockwise on the motors without that little notch. There's a good angle here you can see on how far that motor is tilted out. So they're all tilted out. So they're probably doing that for some kind of just angle stability. Little bit of a con here. I'm noticing as I've been just finagling with this thing, look at this. The pitot tube mount already came out unglued. Definitely a little con there. Gonna have to put some of my own glue on there. Push that down in, make sure that stays there. It looks like this is where the flight controller and all the guts of the whole plane are gonna be. And these are held in with hex screws. I'm not gonna take this off right now, but that's gonna be all the flight controller, you know, GPS and all that stuff is gonna be in there. And then over here, we just have one more compartment on top. This is kind of like that same pressurized foam as the Parrot Disco has. Same exact thing where it's like compressed. Little magnets for the top of the shell here. And the other side of the magnets are down here. And here's our battery. So it's just stuffed right in here. Let's try to pull this thing out, see what this battery is. It does feel like it's Velcroed in here. So you got to give it a little bit of pressure. And that got super light. Now it's super front end heavy. And let's check out what this battery is. This does feel like lithium polymer flat cells. So it's a LiPo, not a lithium ion round cell kind of battery pack. And as far as the specs go, this is a 5500 mAh 4 cell. So you can see 15.2 to 17.4 volt. So this is a 4S battery pack. They looks like they have a really simple charge port here, which is on the other side of the charger as well. And hopefully there's a BMS, a battery management system in here, so it does correctly charge and balance. As you can see, just a normal XT60 connector with big old thick wires here to supply that power to those 4 motors. And of course on the other side, just that little bit of Velcro to help hold it in the craft. Quick peek at the battery bay since we're already here. A little Velcro on the bottom to hold it in there. There's how the bay looks. You have the other side of those magnets. There's our receiving XT60. And then you can see there's just a little bit of a circuit board in there. We've got some crossbar tubing. So flipping this guy over, not a whole lot to see here. You can see where all the joints are kind of glued here. Looks like they're glued fairly well. We've got some venting here on the bottom. I'm just kind of looking in these gaps here, and it looks like there is like possibly a heat sink down in there for the ESCs, because there are going to be basically 4 motors on here, multi-rotor motors, so they're going to need like a electronic speed control to control them. And just for added cooling, we have these ports here. There's 2 ports here, plastic hex screws in there, and one of them looks like it's backed out quite a bit. These ones all look like they're down in there tightened really good, but that one looks like it's pretty loose, so I may want to tighten that up and just check if that's okay. Right over here, I'm seeing a little antenna. So this looks like it's going to be the receive and transmit antenna, at least one of them. And it's sticking out right outside the bottom there, just barely coming out. Moving on to the front, we do have a whole other little compartment here, and these are all screwed down with plastic hex screws. And what this is all about, guys, is since this gives you 720p, it doesn't really give the 4K super stabilized video with the built-in system, and that's kind of where this differentiates from like the Parrot Disco. Remember, the Parrot Disco just had that camera stabilized. It was only 1080p, but it was a really good camera. I would really like to see these things just come with like a 4K stabilized camera built in. But what they chose to do is just let you be able to put on your GoPro style. So I'll probably be putting on my DJI Osmo Action. If you don't have a camera, they do give you this kind of like blank insert, and these are weights in here. So this is going to be the weight of, say, a camera like this. So here's the DJI Osmo camera. I love this cam. It's waterproof. If it rains, this at least will be waterproof if it rains on this thing while you're flying. This feels maybe a little bit heavier than the weights they give you here, so we'll see how that all works. Looks like it's going to be kind of hard to reach the buttons when you have this thing velcroed in. So you're probably going to have to start recording and then velcro this in nice and tight. You want to get this in really tight. You do not want your camera to fall out. And so that's kind of how it goes in there. Anyway, that really is how it looks with your own camera kind of mounted on it. You can see it from a side view. And of course, that's the camera you're going to see in the FPV that goes to the controller. Let's bust out the controller. Oh, there's that pitot tube again. That's kind of irritating. I'm gonna have to glue that in there. I'll have this in the description as well. It's just called a E6000 clear transparent glue. The best thing I've ever used for my hobbies on doing stuff like this. And that is not gonna go anywhere after this dries. I like how this stuff is clear. You can see how you can barely see it. And when it dries, it's even gonna be less visible. All right guys, so let's check out the controller. It just kind of comes with a little bit of plastic to protect everything here. So let's take all this stuff off. Antennas go up. This thing comes off, and there it is. So this is basically a little phone screen in here. You can see that does look like right around the 6 to 7 inch size, maybe 6 inch, 6.5 ish. But that does look like a pretty nice screen. Let's just take a closer look at all these things on the controller. So it does look like the tips of the thumbsticks are aluminum. Gimbals are very tight and springy, and they're both like that. Little HEQ sticker there, slightly coming off. So let's push that back on. As you know, quality control is always sometimes an issue with these kinds of crafts, and so it looks like there might be some slight quality control issues. I do see antennas going up inside of the actual antennas, so at least we know that these are real antennas. On the front, we've got some buttons, A, power, and B. C over here, just a little clicker, and D on this side. Bringing it over to the top, we've got an F and H. The F is going to be this lower kind of three-way toggle here. And the H is actually this trigger roller. Now this does not spring back. It goes all the way and then it stops. It's got this little ridge to, so you know where the middle is there. I'd imagine that some of these buttons here are not going to be in toggles, are not going to be in use. On the left side, we have the same thing, just the G and an E here. So the E, another three-way toggle here. And then the G is that same kind of roller, potentiometer, I should say, that has a little detent on the top. Very top, looks like we got some speaker porting and or cooler porting. And then we've got this little rubber deal here that's just kind of already almost popping out. Interesting, a little SD card there. You see that little slot on the right. And then we have the micro USB-C, and they did include a cable. And then this one here is a PPM port. So I'm assuming this is the way we're going to charge the battery with that little white USB-C charger we got in the box. This little guy right here, remember this? So looks like this is pretty much just to charge the controller, just like that. It looks like you're gonna have your own USB power brick to charge the controller itself. That's about it. No real rubber on the sides. It's just kind of like a hard plastic all the way around. Would have been nice maybe if they finished it with some kind of rubberized plastic on the handles like other drones do. Little handlebar here, and that's about it. No ports on the bottom or anything, just all those ports are just right on the top. Let's try and just power this thing up real quick since we got it here. Click and hold. There we go. Picture of the controller. Looks like this thing's gonna take a little while to boot up. Unlock, so I just swiped up. All right. I'm just scrolling over. We can keep swiping and we have, oh cool, all this stuff. Instead of reading the instructions, you could also just look at all these controls, what they all do. Kind of goes more in depth on what all these things are for. Flight mode switch up here. We got our left stick, fixed wing rotor switch, which is the A. The B is a one-click return to home, so you're flying, click that, return to home. When it returns to home, you probably want to shut that off. I've heard that this one gets stuck into return to home and you can't relaunch, so make sure you shut that off before you try to take off again. Very similar, just like a multi-rotor when it's in that mode. Once it's transitioned over to flying like a plane, push forward to speed up, push back to slow down. Left and right here is useless. Right stick is going to kind of be our up and down, so we're going to be pushing forward to make the nose go down, pulling back to make the nose come up, and then this is going to roll left or right. If you want to use the Japanese style control, it just switches a few of the controls around. And that's it for like the newbie control. So if we press X out of here, cool, looks like you can set all this stuff. You're gonna definitely need to connect to the craft to make sure that we can do all this stuff. You can see how you can set all these altitude limits, geo radius if you wanted to do training and you didn't want it to fly past a certain distance, you can set all that here. Return to home altitude. If you lose control or when you press that return to home button, that's just setting the altitude the craft will go up to, just so you don't hit any trees, right, coming on the way back, or any buildings. You want to set that higher than any buildings you have in the area. Let's go ahead and connect to the Wi-Fi, make sure we're there and connected. We even have these home and back buttons as well we can use, so we can go back. And look at that, it's streaming in the satellite map as soon as I connected my Wi-Fi. So we're just at a random place, it looks like in China. I want to go over to Hawaii, because I'm in Hawaii over here. Hey, it already sees my controller there. And this should hopefully be saving and streaming in and saving the map as I zoom in. So apparently it knows where the controller is at my house. That's pretty cool. I'm just gonna kind of zoom in to some of the places I'm gonna fly this thing. Zoom in a few times, zoom all over the place. This is what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to zoom in at different levels. So you wanna zoom in to get it as detailed as you want before you fly in all the areas you think you're gonna be flying. So just make sure you do all that. If we swipe up, we can see that it just basically brings us into our app drawer. So what I might want to do here, guys, since we can do all this, is I might actually sideload the screen recorder I like to use. I think it should definitely be able to work on this. Okay, guys, I think I got everything charged enough to do an initial boot up. I got the battery mounted in here. All I'm gonna do is plug it in. So you could hear that initial boot up chime. And then it kind of does that secondary boot up chime. We're waiting for some kind of connection. And there we go. Looks like it is connected. We do have FPV video on the camera facing up towards the ceiling. Cool. So if I click on that, there we go. You can see as I move the craft around. Oh, cool. So it is kind of stabilized actually. And there's a little bit of a delay. Digital Wi-Fi connection. So we're getting about a half a second delay. Definitely don't want to be doing that, flying close, because you're going to have that delay. And if there's an obstacle, you're not going to be able to react fast enough if you're too close to it. So be careful with that. So anyway, let's go over this interface. So we looked at the map. So let's see what happens here. If we rotate it, oh, cool. On the very right of the screen, you see those two bubbles, those two circles, and you can see the orientation of the craft. I'm basically rotating it towards me now. And it is showing you in real time which way the craft is rotating. I'm going to lift up one side of it, the right side, and look at that. The bottom right circle, the craft is turning. So it's really good at showing you the orientation, kind of like some of the submarines I reviewed. Showing up here on the top left, the motors are locked. And we are connected with an exclamation mark. And here we go. So a little red thing that says Sirius reject altitude control, loading perimeter complete, whatever that means. I'm just going to close that. Let's just kind of work our way over the screen while we have this thing on and connected. There's 4 GPS satellites only in the house and it's facing up. Now the GPS is somewhere on the top of the the drone itself. So being that it's in its kind of vertical multi-rotor mode, it's not going to have the best visibility of the sky. So we're only getting 4 there. I can click on it. It's cool how it gives you more information if you do want to click on things. Wow, cool. So pretty in-depth interface here. Just clicking back on the screen to take that away. This button here on the interface might not even do anything. This is where we can kind of see our airspeed, flying speed, altitude, home distance, and flight time. We'll go into control. I want to see advanced settings, calibrate level. Definitely recommend doing calibrate level like on a super level surface in your house. There we go. We got a completed. It's always good to see. So we're going to hit completed there. Gyroscope are already calibrated. Probably a good idea to do these things in the flying field. The level, it's hard to find a level spot in the flying field. So I would definitely do this at home. Now we're getting the motors chime because apparently it has just been on for too long. I'm not seeing any changing of units, which is unfortunate. The ability to change units to like feet and miles. Anyway, let's just check for updates one last time. So apparently this thing just like isn't really giving us any indication that it's has any kind of updates for it. So I think that's pretty much it for the interface. So let's shut all this stuff down. I just unplugged it and we're gonna hold in. You can see how a little icon pops up. Do you want to just restart or power off? We're gonna power off. I hope that really helped you to kind of get the thing set up. Just see how it is. It looks like there's going to be a couple of little shortcomings where, you know, this guy so far, I had to glue my own pitot tube in. That was a little bit concerning there. My only other concern is how these wings are going to kind of hold up. If you want that extra security, just go ahead and put a piece of tape right here. Really didn't like how I couldn't change to Imperial units since I am in the US. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope that was informative for you. Lots more to come on this. Remember, flight test, range test. I'm trying to get some cinematic videos here on Maui. I live in Hawaii and there's some really nice cliffs and beaches we can fly over to really get some cool shots and just see how smooth this thing flies and how far it goes and all that stuff. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos, and also check out this product down below in the description just so you can see more of the in-depth specs on it and the pricing and all that stuff. And I will see you guys in the flight test for the K1.